breakout sessions. And for that, I would like each group to, the moderator or the rapporteur from each group to please join us here. Jumana is here representing group number, room 5. We have room 1, room 2, room 3. دكتور تفضل. Mezna. Who was in the room where Dr. Nazimi spoke? Logan has a class to teach, I'm afraid. Maybe Alison can report on his behalf. And who was moderating the group that linked to Gaza online? The online group. They're probably still in work. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Bara Asfour from the American University, who will be joining me in trying to synthesize some of the findings from the various groups so that we can take the conclusions with us into the next session. So maybe we'll give him the chance just to say a few words about yourself and the university.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Bara Asfour. I'm from Arab American University, the president of the university. This university was established in the year 2000, in September 28 exactly, where this date has the Intifada of Palestine has started. So we started in a very complicated situation, and we have gathered a lot of students from all over Palestine, where we have students from the West Bank, and we have students from Gaza, and students also from the 48 territory, whereas it's occupied Palestinians. This has called us as the Palestinian, as the university for all Palestinians. This is why we always show the message for the resilient and the culture of our students and our staff. Where we had always had a very complicated situation, and from a lot of other experience, we would like to maybe help in rebuilding Gaza's education with support of all the other countries.
Thank you very much, Bara. And it's a private university?
Yes.
Private university. And the A, American, comes from?
The Arab American comes from...
Arab American.
Arab American University comes from American experts and American universities. We had collaboration with them and collaboration with Arab universities when we started this university. So it's a lot of communication.
Great, thank you so much. Well, let's start with getting just the main points, very, very concise conclusions from the working groups, with each maybe just 4 minutes or so, giving us a summary of the issues you've discussed. We'll start with Jumana. You can just please introduce who was the moderator.
Good afternoon. My name is Juman Al-Waili. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at Ulster University under the Education, Peace and Politics project. I was a nominated scribe instead of Professor Kelsey Shanks. Kelsey chaired the session, but I was taking the recommendations, so I'll share that with you in a minute. Thank you. Do you want me to start sharing? Okay, so our session was on the sectoral approaches to rebuilding and some of the recommendations that we had. The first one was about the business continuity or contingency plan. I think Dr. Kamal made the comment that these plans do not exist in most higher education institutions, whether in Palestine or the Middle East in general. Therefore, help, support, collaborations from international allies and universities should provide these strategies, or the first steps to these strategies at least, in order for them to be developed based on the contextual knowledge and circumstances. The second recommendation was providing open resources rather than behind paywall resources, specifically for virtual and augmented reality resources for universities and higher education in Gaza. The third recommendation was that rebuilding and reconstruction should start from within, as per Dr. Mariam Atiyah. The world should learn from the Palestinians and center rebuilding on the Palestinians' agency, preserve their knowledge, and protect them from the perils of neoliberalism. Of course, prioritizing meaningful collaborations, care, relationality, working with solidarity, resistance, transformative frameworks, and develop collective human knowledge rather than build on global north or neoliberal knowledge. So Dr. Mariam was calling for a holistic approach to recovery. The fourth recommendation was transformative, or using transformative, resilient, adaptive, and transitional models to rebuilding. And we also have some recommendations again from Dr. Mariam. Dr. Mariam said something very important. She stated that starting from scratch is not always negative. It might be a positive chance to start all over again, building on something new rather than building on old or frameworks that have been used in the past and did not prove to be successful. For grounding the agency of Palestinians, as we mentioned, developing work that is reflective in practice. So whatever we want to develop or rebuild should be a reflective process, going again and again and reflecting on, again, the agency, the knowledge, the everything that Palestinians can provide us with. She spoke about capacity building, and she said that capacity building is mutual in the case of rebuilding higher education institutions in Palestine, as not only Palestinian higher education institutions should learn from international partners, but it's the other way around as well. International partners should learn from the Palestinians and build on their prior knowledge. Thank you. Oh, may I say something? Asil spoke about a specific point, saying that whatever we say now, it feels like a painkiller that we are taking in order to have the pain reduced. But if we do not address the root cause, which is settler colonialism, we are not going to achieve any solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And moving on the Palestinian Agency, I'd like Mezna to present the key points discussed in their work group on importance of Palestinian Agency. You spoke about, sorry. Okay, well, do that. Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mazna Kato. I'm from the University of Cambridge, and I had the immense pleasure to moderate a session on the role of international international academia and international institutions in relationship to the question of reconstruction in Gaza. And this brought together scholars and organizers and faculty members from King's College London, University of Toronto, Cambridge, Oxford, and the University of York to to discuss their experiences in building partnerships and institutional relationships, and the crucial role in particular of the Emergency Committee of Higher Education and Gaza, the Emergency Committee of Gaza Universities, in supporting, facilitating, and providing direction in terms of that international partnership. And so I'll mention three key things that we talked about. First, it was about how in each of our, in all of these cases, how this emergency committee in particular allowed us to work within at our institutions in ways in which we were reflecting back the priorities set by an institution like the Emergency Committee that represents public universities in Gaza, who in themselves, it's a mandate by the presidents of the public universities, representing about 85% of the higher educational sector in Gaza, as to the priorities in this moment of emergency, in this moment of a brutal, unrelenting, ongoing genocide, what our role is as international institutions in supporting them. So those priorities do not come from us, they come from the institutions in Gaza. Second, that they have produced this incredible thing that has been certainly helpful at Cambridge of a concrete financial mechanism that we heard about this morning, the ISNAD program that Ta'awun has set up in order to provide cover legitimacy under conditions of expanding anti-Palestinian legislation across many of our different sectors, financial anti-Palestinian legislation, terror, whatever, discursive anti-Palestinian legislation, IHRA, et cetera, and anti-BDS legislation we also talked about, and how this mechanism can be a way of sidestepping this real challenge to Palestinian institutions. Third, it allowed the different base building sectors that we are all part of, students, faculty, staff, to have a way into institutions that are often quite reluctant to speak, to do anything merely based upon individual efforts in relationship to Gaza. So rather than it being individuals, academics at our different institutions making demands of the institution, this is about leveraging this committee as Palestinian institutions in Gaza demanding partnerships and calling upon a particular frame and relationship to our institutions, i.e. it's institutions talking to other institutions rather than individuals who will always be weak in relationship to these large behemoths that we call our universities. So we talked about the different mechanisms and different ways this committee has empowered us to work. We also thought about three particular experiences amongst those who participated in our workshop. First, the experience of the Norwegian Consortium, and a really exciting effort in Norway of building a consortium of multiple institutions, the majority actually at this point, universities in Norway, in order to build partnerships both between individual institutions, but also as a broad consortium, and the Palestinian universities in Gaza. We also heard some about the experience of trying to organize institutionally in Ireland, and the question of how do we leverage willing communities, willing faculty, willing staff, willing students against an unwilling institution, and the role that an emergency committee like this can play. And we learned about the problem and the question of various legislations and various attempts, particularly in the United States, against BDS, and the kinds of ways we need to think about our relationship to efforts to attempts to block building relationships like this in different parts of the world, and how we need to consolidate our own strengths in order to also be in solidarity with other parts of the world where they have increasingly shrinking capacity to build these kinds of partnerships and institutional relationships. And so this was a kind of really granular workshop where we thought through all of these different experiences and all of the different ways that the committee has empowered us to work more efficiently and effectively and cross-sectorally at our different institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Alison, please, on the Partners in Solidarity.
Thank you. Thanks to Dr. Sultan's magic, I have now become Dr. Logan in the last 5 minutes. Our panel was led and coordinated in part by Professor Nazmi Al-Masri, who was online from Gaza as rockets were falling. He introduced the panel by giving us a description of the 14 initiatives worldwide that he has been part of initiating and putting into practice since October 2023. And rather like my colleague, Dr. David Duncan, I too am contractually obliged to boast of the fact that 6 of those were with colleagues at the University of Glasgow. And Dr. Nazmi talked about the approaches that he has been taking to managing those partnerships with enthusiastic colleagues in the diaspora and also in solidarity, what it means to work together and to do that virtually, and how much we learnt from COVID. But particularly proud of the work that is being done with master students, of the supervision of 10 dissertations, for example, the ability of studies to continue, of publications to be published. So really taking great pride in the ability to continue with business as usual despite, and therefore as an act of resistance. He also gave us some real success stories, and that was his title. This is real and this is success, and that these are outcomes of 15 years of working internationally. So really giving us a model for sustainable partnerships. And he did, of course, end with a quotation from Mahmoud Darwish. We then moved on to a father-son partnership because Anas Al-Masri, Dr. Nazmi's son, gave us a wonderful presentation from the University of Durham on the scholarship of scholarships, which is sadly lacking. Who knew that nobody was doing the scholarship of scholarships? He spoke a lot about the epistemic relief that scholarships can provide, even though they are often limited to elites. He spoke about the ability to enjoy the freedom of research. He spoke about the need, the critical need for those who have been recipients of many different scholarships from Palestinian donor schemes in the past, to be able to come together and share the different perspectives, the different kinds of schemes, and also the different aims of some of those donor groups, so that we get a granular and nuanced understanding of what that scholarship landscape is. And I think his scholarship is really one to watch as he establishes a new field on the scholarship of scholarships, particularly rooted in the Palestinian context. We then moved on to a mother and son partnership with Riham and with Yusuf presenting, who believes he is the youngest presenter in the conference, and who looked at the Islamic philanthropic landscape. And this led to a great deal of questions, important and critical questions, and a lot of nuance around different understandings of the Islamic philanthropic basis, but how important it might be for an understanding of endowments and the freedom that endowments might offer when coming from Islamic contexts in particular. And that was really a strong recommendation coming out, and building on the work that I know that Savo and Logan have also been doing here at HBKU. And really putting some figures onto that as to what that might mean in future, and demonstrating that Harvard today stood against the blocks that the Trump administration are attempting to place because of the freedom that some of their endowments are enabling. So what it can actually do in concrete terms. So a real recommendation for us to consider endowments. We then went to our colleague from Japan, Yukiko, in what was really an astonishing demonstration of what one scholar can do against all the odds in a context where there's very little understanding or awareness at all about Palestine, and the amount of work that our colleague has done. And she was speaking to us with very little voice. We really hope you get well soon, Yukiko. But she was really demonstrating what's possible in a context so far away and yet determined to enact solidarity. And she spoke particularly of the 82 Palestinians, 82, in Japan, one of whom is a Palestinian rapper, Danny Jin, who produces hip-hop. And she played us as an example of the work he's done around boycott, divestment, and sanctions as a way of mobilizing a popular cultural form in Japanese to enable an understanding and an awareness of what is possible. But she also critically emphasized the need for culturally sensitive approaches to protest. And that whilst in much of the global north, the forms of protest may tend towards anger, that it's important in other contexts in the world where that is not appropriate for protest to be culturally sensitive. And she spoke of the way that students in particular have been painting red teardrops and have been bringing forward a symbolic understanding of calling out the names of the martyrs on campuses and holding a vigil and holding presence. So this was Yukiko from Japan, and thank you for what you've done for those 82 Palestinians in Japan. And then finally we moved on to Imad, who moved around a lot. He was rather like the women this morning on the panel and kept telling us he was movable, but had really important, concrete recommendations for things that we can do and things that remarkably, and as we've just been hearing from our colleague, have been done in Norway. He really came to us with an invitation to go to Norway next, but also spoke about the vertical and horizontal work they have done. They have brought together all the rectors of the universities to speak about this matter, rather as we have done through the Royal Society of Edinburgh with the vice-chancellors in Scotland to do the same and to share the understanding of what is possible from different organizations, but also the vertical work, convening meetings, which we all need to learn about, from grassroots students' organizations through the meso level of the bureaucrats up into the academic and also the senior administrative functions of the university. So I think some really important areas to work with. And he spoke a lot about the importance of coordinated aid, coordination being absolutely vital, and the need for a Teams platform or something where we can share these initiatives. And I'm sure people are fatigued by the amount of information that is coming. But for this initiative that we represent as a coalition of care, there needs to be a way of interlinking this that is now governed and managed from individual and successful approaches. And then finally, we heard again from Dr. Nazmi, who gave us an impassioned story of what it has meant for 15 years to be part of different collaborations worldwide, and gave us really a recipe for what this takes, stressing the importance of understanding ourselves as social and psychosocial individuals in collaborations as well, which led really, I think, and this is where Dr. Logan and I had a very hasty conversation as he was running to his class, some recommendations: coordination, 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 coordination at all levels, vertically and horizontally. Intellectual and cultural conceptualizations are vital because many of our concepts are under erasure, and the Palestinian case demonstrates that. So what are our new concepts of higher education that are emerging? An intellectual and theoretical, but also a methodological task. Thinking about language and the tired concepts and what might be under erasure and what might be emerging. Arts and artivism. Advocacy. and the different forms it takes at different levels, and who is best placed to do that, who is safe in this. And then finally, the volunteerism, and the administrative stuff. And I'm just going to call it that. The libraries, the jobs, the scholarships, the fees, the transfer of money, and the fees and tuition fees to our colleagues in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Muhtasim, your workshop discussed the digital and online tools.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Our workshop was very calm, in fact. So people were sitting and nobody were wandering around. So there was peace in the room. But our group discussed the issues of different solutions, IT solution, artificial intelligence solutions, both offline and online, because there was a discussion this morning about the offline solutions. As far we don't have, the privilege of having, internet connections in Gaza, and we don't have also the privilege of energy. So there was some presentations providing some models. So I would like to brief these presentations and contributions. We started with Christos Kypriasos from Oxford University, who provided us a presentation about their model, which was developed and delivered in collaboration with two Palestinian universities, Islamic University and Azhar University. And the model was really providing, training for medical students on trauma and orthopedics, and how they concluded this experience. We moved later on to Isam Shahrur, who provided us with, some ideas coming from the intelligent city and smart cities that could be applied to higher education, especially in terms of, collecting data and using data in delivering and producing and developing evidence-based solutions to problems. After that, we moved to Zarzhal and Zelnur Rahman from Harvard University, our colleagues there, who presented really a model for artificial intelligence-powered virtual laboratories, and using also solar energy to addressing the cut of power and the inavailability of power to provide education, and using offline systems and models. And they provided, some cases from different places in Syria and partially in Gaza, something they have done, and also in Bangladesh and other, countries in where we have, where we need to develop a learning environment, but we don't have internet and we don't have, energy supplies enough for that. After that, we moved with Ahmed Al-Masri, who talked about, much more about, how we can establish environment for learning, and propose, a system where we have, temporary classrooms in terms of tents that are equipped with, solar energy, with Wi-Fi systems and environment for learners who can use these systems. And lastly, we have a presentation about, much more about, the psychology, the resilience of those learned during, the war, from Salah Ahmed, who was not being able to join. Overall, everybody was, agreed that there are a lot of technology and the IT solutions and, that could be used. But first of all, we need the environment that we can really work in. We need to this war to come to an end, and we need also to secure people and they have safe environment for learning. And that's it from our discussions.
Thank you very much. Is Dr. Saidi in the room? Can you just give us a short summary of what was discussed online with Gaza? Please come. You can.
Yeah, sorry, it was a panel online that was has to be organized yesterday. Yeah, we had actually a very interesting panel with actually 5 guests. We had only 4 of them at the end because one couldn't, but all of them from Gaza online participating, and this was already by itself an achievement and really an inspiring session to see input from colleagues in Gaza, mostly from the Islamic University of Gaza, talking about strategies and ideas how to reconstruct universities there. So we had a presentation on international experiences. The first one was surveying, let's say, students and faculty and comparing it with international students on priorities. The key results is to anticipate crisis and to be ready with the strategies. Then we have another presentation on international best practices for reconstruction and success factors. The colleague mentioned programs, European programs such as Erasmus, Horizon 2020, DART, or the US American Fulbright, and how they have been success experiences for helping Palestine, and then talked about experiences, how to strengthen them maybe after the event, and also experiences from Kosovo and Iraq and so on. This was fascinating. Then we had a presentation of a colleague who talked about using artificial intelligence and also remote sensing and all the new technologies in reconstructing universities in Gaza, because we can start rebuilding from zero, and this is already, gives a lot of opportunities to use the technologies, best practices that are available now. Then there was the last fascinating presentation. It was basically a strategy from our colleague Dr. Talal from Islamic University of Gaza. A strategy on how to reconstruct was very detailed. Actually, I think the key point was to listen to priorities on the ground and to have partnerships, to receive support from whoever, but with less conditionality or without conditionalities, but in the spirit of partnership by listening to voices like what we did today from Gaza on the ground. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And there was an ad hoc meeting of the heads of the Palestinian universities with Dr. Rifai from the Higher Council for Education. Dr. Rifai here. We got him. Okay. Dr. Muammar. Dr. Muammar. Can you please just give us a very brief summary on what you discussed in that round table? Yes. The main findings.
Okay. شكرا دكتور. Thank you. المبادرة الأردنية تم التوافق ما بين الجامعات الفلسطينية في قطاع غزة و
معمر لحظة شوي بدنا بس الترانسليشن.
Okay.
Headsets please here. Can you please pass us 2 or 3 headsets? Yes, to us here. معذرة دكتور بس دقيقة هلا. Thank you. Please go.
Okay, thank you. يعني مبادرة الأردن اتفقنا مع الجامعات في قطاع غزة من خلال وزارة التربية والتعليم العالي الفلسطينية يتم تنسيق العملية ومنهجية يعني الوصول من الطالب في غزة إلى مؤسسات التعليم العالي 17 الأردنية. الآلية راح تكون بداية بإرسال قائمة المساقات الستمية اللي تم إعدادها وتحضيرها وتجهيزها من قبل المجلس التعليم العالي الأردني وبمبادرة جامعة ال17 الأردنية. ترسل القائمة وفعلا أرسلت اليوم للوزارة عندنا في التعليم العالي في فلسطين، وبدورنا احنا رح نبعثها خلال يعني 48 ساعة بعد المصادقة عليها والموافقة عليها إلى مؤسسات التعليم العالي في قطاع غزة. سيتم عقد اجتماع مشترك بين الجامعات في غزة لتحديد المساقات من 600 الأساسية الضرورية اللي تحتاجها الجامعات في غزة وطلبة غزة في المرحلة الأخيرة من التخرج. وبناء على ذلك سيتم إرسال رسالة من كل مؤسسة تعليم عالي في غزة إلى الوزارة عندنا بتتضمن موضوعين. الموضوع الأول أسماء أو محاور رئيسية الطالب والمساق اللي بيحتاجه، وكمان اقتراح من المؤسسات ومن الطلبة لإدراج مواد ومساقات أخرى إذا أمكن ذلك من قبل الجامعات الأردنية. أثناء النقاش كمان وسعنا العملية، كنا طالما إنه في إمكانية يكون كمان دعم للجامعات الأردنية، يكون في إسناد كمان من جامعات الضفة الغربية اللي عندها إمكانيات لوجستية عالية وعندها منصات تعليمية وعندها مواد محوسبة إلكترونياً ومساقات يعني تم تحويلها إلى مساقات رقمية. وبعد ذلك طبعاً سيتم يعني التشبيك مع الإخوان في الأردن وربط الطالب مع الجامعة مباشرة. وبعد إنهاء العملية التعليمية التعلمية من قبل الجامعات الأردنية سيتم إرسال كشوف علامات الطلبة وحالاتهم الدراسية أو نتائجهم التعليمية والمصادقة عليها من قبل الوزارة واعتمادها من قبل كل جامعة أو كلية جامعية في قطاع غزة وفق النظام. يعني إما بتعتمدها يعني ناجح راسب أو بتعتمد العلامة كما وردت من الجامعة الأردنية. هذه الموضوع كله اتفقنا على أن يكون كله قبل نهاية منتصف أيار، قبل نص 5، حتى نمكن الإخوان في الأردن من يعني توفير كل المتطلبات والاحتياجات اللازمة اللوجستية وغيرها وغير ذلك. شكرا جزيلا، يعطيكم العافية.
شكرا. Thank you very much. I think this is one real concrete outcome of us getting here together. And it's a really important step forward because of the compatibility between universities in Gaza, West Bank, and Jordanian universities that already exist. And as was presented by Dr. Rifai earlier, the fact that the council, the Higher Council, is willing to act as the umbrella is a great way to coordinate. And it will help us, I think, at least deal for now with the two, some people say one, maybe two generations that are stuck in the system without qualification, without the ability of finishing their degrees, and particularly in science subjects, I think the Jordanians are keen on, but we maybe need to explore with them and help others to think about the humanities and social sciences as well, given what we heard this morning in terms of importance of culture and humanities studies and so on, so that it is as broad as possible. Thank you very much. I'd like now, before we go to Bara to help us synthesize some of those ideas, if there are any comments or feedback, something that you feel was missed, was not mentioned in the working groups, a good idea that you'd like to add to our discussion, we still have a chance later on with David to conclude. But before that, if you have something you'd like to add, دكتورة تفضلي.
Just to shed some lights on an initiative that all my colleagues here have known about, the TC initiative at the Najah National University, and also the one in Birzeit and in Al-Amriki and in Al-Quds Open University, that we have accepted many of the students from Gaza to study at West Bank University. And I think Dr. Muammar knows that very well because he was part of that committee. And we were able to deliver courses that is match with the courses that is in Gaza, because we have an accreditation committees. Now moving to the Jordanian initiative, I appreciate it, but I think as an expert in online learning and emergency education, self-running courses are not suitable alone for traumatized students. We need to have trauma-informed teaching. So students alone, without mentors, without faculties and scholars who are well trained on trauma-informed teaching, can't support. This will lead to more isolation for the traumatized students, and that at the same time, this will add trauma for my colleagues who are scholars at another university in Gaza. So what I recommend, I wish I was part of the discussion, what I recommend that this could be an enriched material for Gaza students, not substitute for the original courses. So this is a good initiative. I appreciate it. I think it's wonderful from Jordanian University, but it should not be a replacement. It should be an open resources, open for Gaza students to enrich themselves. And I know the quality of the courses there, it's wonderful. I have seen some of the courses, they give me access to some of it. I think it should be enrichment courses, not replacement courses, since the human aspect of emergency education is very important and vital for students in Gaza and for scholars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saida. I'm sure you can be included in the discussion, Dr. Muammar. Dr. Saida can be included in the discussion to take it forward. A lot of people were interested in what you described yesterday in terms of the offline, online, and the technology that was developed in Al-Najah. I think that is also important to shed more light on. تفضلي.
سناء أبو دقة من الجامعة الإسلامية. I have 3 points. The first point is regarding the Jordanian initiative and Dr. Saida's comment. I think she's true of what she is saying, but I have conducted a research during this war, and one of the conclusions of the research said students to be effectively learning, they need training on self-learning. So I think what we can add to the initiative to have some course, online course or material, whatever, to help students with academic skills and self-learning. So that will be a very good thing to do to enrich their experience with online learning. This comes with the next point I want to say. It's about really the importance of research to support decision-making, to support studying the impact of all the initiatives. I have been hearing so many initiatives. So we want to see an evidence-based research more than any other thing. The third point I really want to add is talking about initiatives from different countries, different places, different academics. We need to do assessment to see what initiatives are really good, to continue doing that. What are the problems in some of the initiatives to avoid them? So I'm doing assessment all through the way. In rebuilding higher education, I think it's important. And we can address those results of assessment or updating. For example, the assessment that has been done with the Swiss piece, I think it's an excellent one. But there are so many changing now, so we need to update that report. So assessment is important, research is important, and the following up with what we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. شوي بس. تفضل دكتور. Right at the back إذا سمحت. While you get the microphone, I think the idea of a joint platform just to share information is gaining momentum here. Maybe something we can take forward to the next session. تفضل دكتور.
دكتور رائد الحجار نائب الأكاديمي جامعة الأقصى. احنا بس حابين برضو نعطي توضيح لما يعني نتج عن اللقاء مع الدكتور الرفاعي بوجود طبعا دكتور معمر. اللي وضح الدكتور معمر يعني شوي في يعني مع الدكتورة سائدة، هي أكدت على أهمية هذه المبادرة، ولكن حاب أكد على أنه إحنا عندنا في الجامعات الفلسطينية داخلين على الفصل الرابع دكتور، أكثر تقريبا من 3 فصول داخلين على الفصل الرابع. في عندنا مشكلة في المواد التعليمية. الآن إحنا مش رايحين للسيلف ليرنينج بشكل كامل، إحنا حابين يعني إنه إذا كان في مواد غير قادرين على تسجيلها، يعني اليوم أغلب المحاضرين عندنا في الجامعات الفلسطينية موجودين في غزة، بنحكي لهم سجلوا مواد، مش غير قادرين على تسجيل المواد. فلما تجينا المادة من المنصة الحسن للتعلم على سبيل المثال، ويخدها الأستاذ عندنا في جامعاتنا الفلسطينية ويدير عملية التعلم، يعني مش حنقول للطالب خدها وخلينا نقابلك نهاية الفصل، لا، يعني الأستاذ بده يدير عملية التعلم يا دكتورة. فبالتالي هذه نقطة مهمة. زائد أكدنا على إنه إحنا عندنا مشكلة كبيرة جدا، إنه موادنا العملية موقفة تخرج لمدة 2 سنين. لحتى الآن الطلاب غير قادرين على التخرج. أنهى كل المتطلبات النظرية في تخصصات مثل، ليس يعني على سبيل المثال ليس الحصر، كيمياء، فيزياء، أحياء، علوم طبية، مواد في التمريض وغيرها من المواد اللي بتحتاج إلى العملي. الطالب خلص نظري وكل فصل أنا بنزل الجدول، الطالب بينتظر مادة عملية بنقول له لا إمكانية، لأنه المختبرات تم تدميرها، المواد والأجهزة كلها راحت. فبالتالي لقينا بديل إنه المنصة، زائد انضلنا على اتصال مع الجامعات الفلسطينية وتضل في الضفة الغربية، ومبادرة الضفة الغربية تضلها معنا بنفس الطريقة، إنه برضو يصوروا المختبرات تبعتهم على شكل محاضرات عملية، وإحنا نتصرف فيها برضو نفس الشيء. إذا كان هناك في مجال لأنه الدكتور في الجامعة الأردنية يساعدنا، إذا ما كانش متوفر عندنا دكتور في جامعاتنا الفلسطينية، برضو هذا يعتبر بديل. إحنا يعني بنشتغل في أكثر من بديل وبأكثر من خيار، كله في النهاية لأن هناك حاجة ماسة لأنها تتوفر. وهذا برضو بيأكد على اللي تفضلت فيه الدكتورة سائدة امبارح، إنه يعني في طرق الآن للتعلم بالاوف لاين. يا دكتور انت حكيت عن هذا الكلام، يعني ما في اختلاف في وجهات النظر، واحنا كنا ان شاء الله بنفكر لكيف نحل مشاكل طلابنا، لانه طلابنا يعني معنوياتهم ودافعيتهم دائما بتحتاج لانه نقول لهم لا احنا مستمرين واحنا حنحاول نساعدكم في انجاز الخطه الدراسيه كامله، ومش نعطيهم جزء. فبقولوا يعني بصراحة معلش طولت، بقولوا إنه أنت أعطيتنا جزء ولسه الجزء المهم يعني على سبيل المثال آخر مثال، يعني في عندنا كلية التربية، عندنا أكبر كلية في الجامعة اللي بتكلم عنها، حوالي 5000 طالب يحتاج الذهاب إلى المدرسة لكي يتدرب. الآن المدارس تم تدميرها والمدارس مش موجودة. الآن انتظرنا فصلين 3 والمطالبات من الطلاب بقول لك أنهيت الخطة الدراسية وضايل هالمساق. طب إيش نسوي؟ طب نبعته على خارج غزة، يعني نسفر 5000 طالب عشان يتدربوا في المدارس. فالطريقة اللي تفضلوا فيها الزملاء من خلال المنصة شبيهة فيها، إنه الطالب بيحضر فيديوهات، يعني هو حل ليس ذو جودة، ولكن في النهاية ضمن هالأزمة اللي احنا بنعيش فيها ممكن يعني نمشي حالنا، والطالب بعد ذلك يعني يتم معالجة الفاقد في المهارة. وهذا موضوع على فكرة ممكن يكون مهم في موضوع المؤتمر كله. خريجين الجامعات الفلسطينية اللي تخرجوا خلال 2 عندهم فاقد في السكيلز، هذا قول واحد. فبالتالي يحتاجوا إلى مؤتمر كيف نقيم خريجينا اللي احنا خرجناهم بالآلاف في كل التخصصات، وبعد ما نقيم مهاراتهم نعمل لهم اختبارات ونشوف مؤسسات تعاون بيننا وبين هاي المؤسسات عشان نكسبهم المهارات عشان نأهلهم لسوق العمل. هذا موضوع تاني، بس في النهاية الطالب يأخذ سيرتيفيكيتس وبعدين احنا بنتصرف ان شاء الله. شكرا. يعني هذه يمكن تكون الكلمة الأخيرة. شكرا لكل الأفكار اللي قدمت، ويعني احنا مش حابين ننهي
شكرا دكتور، لساتنا شغالين. لحظة شوي. We don't expect to finalize all the details here. I mean, what we have been able to do is to put 2 sides together. Inshallah, something will develop as a result of this. And I'm sure there will be a working group coming up and will follow up Dr. Muammar and others. And there will be a lot of detailing to be worked out. The most important, as I started by saying, is the compatibility that already exists between the systems. We're not talking about a group of universities coming from totally far distances, different languages, etc. It's the barriers are much less. And Dr. Rifai is speaking on behalf of His Royal Highness, and he's speaking on behalf of the Council. This is the highest authority in Jordan, so it can remove a lot of bureaucracies. He's already lined up 17 universities willing to make contributions. It will end up, I'm sure there will be a lot of details to be worked out, but it's something we start with. There was another comment here, Khalas? Okay. Well, I think we now move to our colleague, Dr. Asfour, if you have any idea. بدك تحكي؟
Hello?
تفضل.
Okay. Dr. Sultan, I find that we are going forward, and all the colleagues have helped us finding something. And after this session, we already have a strategy, and we know where we are going. First, I think that we need a full commitment from the international institutions and communities to help us go through these strategies that we have put. And everything is supposed to go under the umbrella of the Palestinian Ministry of Higher Education, since they are the contact point of the higher educations in Gaza. We need a plan. So the plan is here, and everybody has helped us put the plan. I find that we have two main points that we need to focus on. The first one, it's immediate intervention. Immediate intervention, and the other one is intermediate, that takes from 2 to, let's say, 5 years. And the first one, we should start from this moment, and it's for the short term. The first one, the short-term plan, is that we need to focus on psychological healing and adoption of traumatized students and staff, and build the human resources and have them restored, since they have gone through a very long period of hard time. And a lot of people has mentioned the AI integration. This is always, nowadays, is a good subject that we need to focus on and concentrate on. And we also need to start the classes right away. We have to put the plan, the ministry, as we have also heard from our colleagues, that our theoretical part has been done, but we have problems doing the practical part, and this has been going on by the Ministry of Jordan. And also we think that the Palestinian universities in the West Bank also can help in this part. And we need also a full support from online libraries. We need to have full access from online libraries. Then we can go on for the long-term interventions and plan. This has include, let's say, the most important part is the financial issues. We need for this issue to be resolved from the international support, since Gazan people has no support at all. We need international support, we need scholarship, we need faculty development and education technology from overseas. We need free access to the educational platforms other than the libraries. That's need to be done, and there's a lot of strategies our colleagues have spoken about. And we also need the Palestinian authorities, the United Nations agencies like the UNRWA, the UNICEF, the UNESCO's. We need their support, and we need support from the NGOs. We need also other donors from local and international donors to help rebuilding Gaza, because this need to help in the infrastructure of the universities, which is already wiped out. And we also need the labs and also technological part, from whether IT parts or databases and all the other parts. It needs to be rebuilt through different donors. I see that we can learn from other experiences. We have seen what happened in Syria. We learned from also other countries like Germany, what happened in Germany in the World War. They have gone through a comprehensive educational restoration, and they have a lot of the experience there. And from Bosnia and from Rwanda, we need to learn from their experience. We need to start a new education sector. We can't go with traditional education. We need to start from starting new ways to give our education. Maybe, as other colleagues mentioned, that others can learn from us this experience, and we can be the starting point in Gaza, having the new third generation, fourth generation of education. All these steps, they need a lot of work. They need a lot of experts, and we have a lot of them over here. They can help us. We need to take into considerations a very important point, that speed. We need to get things done right away, but we also need to have the quality also in our minds. So we need to do a balance between these 2 points for short term and long term.
Great, thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah. This is very helpful, thank you very much. And if you allow me just to try and summarize, those are going to be impossible, but very, very broad, some of the key areas that we can focus on. And these areas may require some of us to work together, others maybe just to think jointly, connect their resources and so on. The first area, it seems to me, is conceptual. It's how we approach the problem. And we've heard about the importance of looking deep into the root causes of all of this, and the importance of the language. And we were reminded many, many times that this is specific, targeted genocide attacks on education for a specific reason. Aside from putting a halt to the process of education, there is something deeper behind it. And we need to maybe take that as one of the important guiding principles for us moving forward. The second issue is maybe related to how we do it. And in terms of the how, we have heard views that focused quite a lot on the immediate, and there is a legitimate cause for it, although it does look sometimes messy, it's not organized, it's all over the place. But the reality is that you do have 2 generations that are now blocked. And the reality is that you don't have more generations coming into universities, because higher schools have also been bombed, and there are no feeders into those universities. So there's another reality, that some of the universities may not have the reason to exist moving forward in a couple of years if the situation continues like this. And from that perspective, we need to learn from the history, and you refer to some of these reconstruction experiences. One of the reasons why the Germans were successful is that they did start from scratch. They took the decision to start from scratch because they had to introduce a totally new ideology and way of doing things into the system. And not everything that existed before necessarily was rebuilt. So one of the most difficult questions you need to consider is whether all the institutions today in Gaza can justifiably be argued for to be rebuilt, and they will be feasible, both in terms of their very existence, continuation, the modality in which they work. We heard a lot about potentiality of doing things online, et cetera, and the locality of those institutions. We all understand the reasons why they were spread the way they were spread, the obstacles the Israelis put in their way, and so on. But it's an opportunity, I think now, and I'm sorry to use the word opportunity, but it does seem an opportunity to take education into the 21st century, but very much rooted into the cultural perspective of Palestinians and where they want to move forward. And that, to me, seems to require really systematic. You talked about the importance of research, reflection, a think tank, not think tank as an organization, but a group to continuously keep the discussion moving forward so that while you resist, you also imagine a different future that takes you really on top of things, to be competitive, for your graduates to have work opportunities. You need to think, blue sky thinking at the moment, including the potential of gas resources coming into Gaza and lots of other things that are on their way, hopefully, as the settlement is reached. So there is that dimension as well. And then we have a group of ideas around finance. And the easiest model has been, let's call on the international agencies, the UN agencies, to come and help us. And we know that they haven't been as active for a number of reasons, but also we know that Israel is quite powerful and has introduced barriers for finance going into Palestinian territory. And this is going back years, but now it's become even more strict and likely to be worse with the new American administration moving forward. Every single dollar has got to be approved moving in and out. And that is something that we should, I think, consider. And it somehow drives us to the idea of focus on the individual, the student being able to pay his or her fees. This is, ironically, much easier to transfer the money for students on this click or whatever the systems are called, rather than working with institutions. Transferring money to institutions under the current circumstances would be very, very difficult. And I don't know the experience of the emergency committee and others who tried. It is now almost impossible to do what we ideally should be doing, and that is supporting institutions. But that's something we can take forward. There are also groups of ideas around the technology available, the physical reconstruction of the buildings, the communities they create. And those of you who know Gaza, in the north of Gaza, some of the universities are beautifully clustered around each other, that they really create maybe a different kind of education city here. They have this beautiful square between them and they can connect and so on. And maybe that spatial arrangement is also important for us to consider. And then comes the issue of solidarity and connectivity to the outside world. And it is great. I mean, this group here represents a real defiant, mood. And as you know, the vast majority of you have come at their own expense. And this is a great indication of your care. And I think that community of care is really something we should stick to. And we can do much more. And we've heard from the discussions that Mesna and her colleagues have had. There are already a number of initiatives. Some of them are just starting, some are picking up. And there's no harm in us focusing on the countries where the mood is already supportive. So Ireland, Norway, Spain, South Africa, where there's less political barriers to deal with. Although we'd like, obviously, to do the big countries as well, United States and United Kingdom and so on. But maybe we can, again, in an emergency mood, focus now on the countries where they're already willing and caring, and with a little bit of support, a little bit of coordination, a little bit of communication, we can connect the dots. And then I think maybe very important, the discussion we had about the role of women. I mean, you saw women power in action, earlier before lunch, and it is multiplied in much greater in Gaza. And I know this firsthand, people I know, and I think what we heard this morning also illustrate that. And it is very important that we keep this in mind moving forward, both in terms of whatever network ideas we ourselves decide to structure, but also what messages we transmit internationally around the need for rebuilding, the potential role they can play. And I was really, really struck about this description that Khawla presented in relation to who is a civilian, that we really go always. I mean, I speak on Al Jazeera occasionally, and we always think in terms of women and children, and we forget that civilians not just women and children, but women do play a central role in building society in Gaza. So with this, I think we'll bring this session to a close, and I thank all the panelists for their contributions. Thank you so much for everything. And I invite with me Dr. David Duncan, both as the representative of Glasgow, but also as the most senior money handling man amongst us, I think, with the ability to work strategically. If you can join me here, please, David. Thank you very much. Okay, well, this whole thing started in a conversation with David almost a year ago. Then came the Glasgow meeting, and now we're here in Doha. And it's really fitting to have him help me close and bring this to a firm conclusion, maybe starting with what we can do. We, as in our institutions first, but also everyone in the room here, and how we can take it forward. Some concrete suggestions.
Thank you, Sultan. I'm really overwhelmed really by the wealth of expertise and lived experience in this room over the last couple of days. And the more I hear, the more I really understand how much I don't know about this issue. I've been hugely impressed and moved by the resilience and determination of Palestinian friends and colleagues, but also by the profusion of examples of positive interactions that people have engaged in. And I think, one phrase that stuck with me from the last session was the importance of nothing about us without us, which I think resonates for all of us with the Palestinian community, and I think should guide our actions going forward. It may be that, I think looking ahead, that there is a will to try to better coordinate what we do together. And that, as you said, Sultan, that creation of some sort of online hub for ideas would be something that we should work on in a practical way and put together over the next few weeks. Also, I think we need to invoke support from more supranational agencies and umbrella bodies who are not really present in this room today. It shouldn't really be up to individual universities to take this forward. We need more support from those agencies and make them part of this coalition of the caring. And then EMAD, who's based in Oslo, has generously offered to host a follow-up conference, which hopefully will take place in late August and September. In the interim, I don't know. It may be that we want to set up some working groups to develop action plans in particular areas. And the four areas that strike me as emerging from the discussion, the first is something around blended and online learning, mentoring, access to materials, and so on. That whole agenda seems to come together perhaps in one strand. The second is that issue around addressing psychological trauma, which our colleague at the back of the room highlighted earlier, and which is obviously apparent and current for so many people. The third is around scholarships, studentships, fellowships, temporary jobs, that issue of how we support Palestinian academics and students in the interim while this war is going on. And then the fourth is perhaps around that last and most difficult point that you touched on at the end there, Sultan, which is creating a model or framework for rebuilding and restoration of infrastructure and how it's funded. And of course, that may look quite different to what we've had before in Gaza, but it probably requires some very careful thought about what it might look like in the future. So those were my thoughts. They may accord with what other people are thinking, but I think that's where I've got to so far.
Great, well, thank you very much. If I may just add a couple of points. In terms of finance, two ideas were raised, one to do with endowments and one to do with zakat. And these are really important. Zakat, the level of the zakat money available in the Muslim world is immense. It's quite important. And it does need some thinking how you link zakat money to supporting students in universities and so on. Maybe something that we can take forward in our thinking. On endowment, of course, the majority of the universities in Gaza, as I understand, are private. And they've already been built, donated by philanthropists from outside. And there should be and could be maybe more research, analysis, understanding into how you encourage those who have contributed in the first place to come forward again, but in a much more organized and endowment-based. The endowment, the business about is it allows for sustainability. Those of you who visited maybe the center of Doha here, we have Misharib area. It's an endowment for Qatar Foundation. It supports the activities here. And that, I think, is a model that is particularly special. We call it awqaf in Arabic. Access to libraries. This is something that we can do with a couple of universities who already have both the right for publications, access, and so on. If we can make it available to Palestinian University, it's a huge gain on its own. And I know it's expensive, but it could be less expensive if it is well used and the university that is offering the support is acknowledged in the publications coming out and so on. So we need to think of mutual ways of supporting each other and acknowledging each other. In a workshop earlier with Mesna and her colleagues, I said that universities like to work with universities. They don't want to work with faceless committees or ministries on behalf of universities and so on. Usually, we like to know who is our counterpart. Am I working, as we did with this workshop, with the Islamic University of Gaza? I know exactly who I'm talking to. I know exactly how they think. We can communicate. We can produce knowledge together. So we need to encourage that modality and not see it as a threat for coordination or the need for one side to control everything. There are endless needs, and there are opportunities for everybody to do something if they wish to do so. So with that, I think we'll give the last word to our colleagues from Norway, who are bravely putting forward the possibility that we continue our discussion in Norway, somewhere in Oslo, the warmest part of Norway. Yeah, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Imad Aruzzi, and I'm presenting a group of 7 Norwegian delegates here from several universities. I'm from Gaza, from Nuseirat refugee camp. I just want to make just a few closing comments because the first thing, yes, I would like to, on behalf of universities in Oslo, would like to welcome you all to Oslo at the end of August, early September. The dates are not set yet, but we are thinking the same thinking like Glasgow, Doha today, and Oslo maybe, I hope it will be next. We cannot offer you such a beautiful hall like we are experiencing here, but we are offering you great welcome for sure. In this regard, I would love to also to have the participant list in order to be in contact with you as soon as possible. What we did actually recently in Norway, which was fantastic, I think that we got together all the universities' lectors together, the vice chancellors, and we are together have constitute a consortium, a national consortium, where we are also putting a pressure on the government and politician and the parliament in order also to get fund for the rebuilding of Gaza. For more details about this consortium, so I would be very happy if you read the paper that we sent to the conference earlier. I think it will be published in not a long time ago. When it comes to the main concern, actually, it comes to the having a platform. We think a platform will help all of us to get to know what we are doing in order to avoid a kind of duplication of the same efforts that can be done for universities, but also we can secure a kind of fair distribution of these aid that come to different universities. We know that some of the universities have a huge network and countries still stand behind them, but we know also that there is a few universities who are small and they don't have like an international resources also. All of them are our students and all of them are our universities.
Thank you.
There is no private, actually, I just want to comment on private part. There is no private universities in Gaza in the term that we know internationally, like the upper class students who go to private universities. Private universities have almost the same fees, tuition fees that actually applies to the other students.
I meant not state-owned.
Yeah, okay. Yes, last week I did also before I come to Doha. Actually, I thought that I would do like a kind of field work. So I did a really full field work in Cairo before I come to Doha, because I am sure that all of the helps that we can get through to Gaza, it has to go through also Cairo. I mean, from Egypt side. Maybe not. I hope. It will be possible. But one of the things that happened in Cairo, I met all the universities representatives, the embassy and so on, but I met just one thing.
We're in the closing mood now.
Okay, great.
Sorry. I'll talk to you about what you saw in Cairo later.
Okay, great.
We just two last comments, really, or feedback. Number one, as you know, we've had 120 or maybe 130 abstracts submitted. Then we worked them down to about 45, correct me if I'm mistaken, Alison, papers. And I think 50 ended up being submitted, so we went up rather than down. We will be working on an edited volume to maybe not all the 50 papers. We'll have to be really tough, and we'll select maybe 10, 12 of those. We'll come back to you, those of you who'd like to continue this into an academic project. The paper that they've contributed, they'll be published in this volume. And I think Alison already has been in touch with the publisher, and we have some plans moving forward. The other thing is, in terms of the platform, the online platform, if you allow me, this is my personal view, but I'm going to put you on the spot now. I think it would be great to have that platform hosted by a UK university. If I know our limitations here, I mean, I don't know if we're still broadcasting. Are we broadcasting? Oh my God, okay. Bureaucracy-wise, I think maybe challenging at our end, but yeah, I think politically it's important that this is seen in the UK, credibility-wise, in terms of who's behind it, that it's not going to be undermined, because accusations will fly immediately. I mean, anything coming from our side will probably be looked at with suspicion. But if that is okay, we can contribute, we can, in the name of the same partners, contribute ideas into that platform. And with that, you don't have to. So you can consider it.
I'm sure we could do that. So I'm sure we could do that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. See? Finally, I'd like to thank you all for the effort coming here. I hope you had 2 enjoyable days. I hope you had the chance to see Education City and a little bit of Doha. And I want to thank our partners, University of Fort Hare, professors, thank you so much for coming all the way to be with us. University of Johannesburg, Rama, University of Exeter, and of course, University of Glasgow, as well as education above all, who are with us, I think. Dr. Hani, okay, they're with us in spirit. Thank you very much for everyone, and hope to see you, it looks like, in Oslo in the near future. And in between, we'll keep in touch and we'll try and develop those ideas together. Thank you very much for everybody.